Uh, that's a bit scary, isn't it? What is that? Anyone know? The Eye of Sauron, yeah. Sometimes when someone's eye is on you, it's negative, isn't it? Like that, watching you, Big Brother is watching kind of thing, CCTV, surveillance. You feel, I've felt that before. Preachers stand up at the front. I've felt watched before. You can feel that in life sometimes, can't you? It's more of a negative thing of someone's eyes on you and you feel watched, you feel observed. But sometimes it can be more positive, can't it? Actually, if someone's eye is on you, if they've noticed you, if they've seen you, actually, it could be a romantic thing, couldn't it? They've seen you, they've noticed you, their eyes, you've caught eyes, or they're looking at you, their eyes on you in that sense. So it could be in the workplace, actually, that the boss has got their eye on you. You're one to watch. They might be looking to promote you, or maybe you play football and this is obviously not me, is it? But you play football and there's a scout. They're keeping an eye on you. They're looking out for talent, and they're watching you. Or just in life, you sense that someone's keeping an eye on you. They're looking out for you. Maybe it's the eye of a parent or an older sibling over a younger child, and they're looking out for them and they're keeping an eye on them. Well, Jesus has his eye on you. He sees you, and that's a good thing. It's not like he does see everything, but Jesus sees you. Jesus has his eye on you. That's what we're going to think about this morning. Jesus sees you. Jesus won't overlook you. He won't ignore you. He doesn't turn a blind eye to you and the things that are going on in your life. No, Jesus sees you, and in three particular ways this morning that we'll look at. The first thing that we see from this Bible passage, I think, is that he sees your deepest, desperate plight. Jesus, we remember last week he made that journey across the lake to the other side. Now he's returning, we're told in verse 40. Jesus returns, and there's a welcoming committee. People are looking forward to seeing him. They've kind of got used to seeing Jesus around, and they're looking out for him. They welcome him. They're keen to receive him there in verse 40. And then we meet this man, don't we? A man named Jairus, a synagogue leader, came and fell at Jesus' feet. Now, Jairus is named. That's quite unusual, isn't it? Actually, lots of the people that Jesus met, they go unnamed. But Jairus is named here from Luke's point of view. The author here, as he writes, he's just pointing out this is the main eyewitness here, Jairus. He's well known, named and known. People would have known who Jairus was, and here he is. He's the guy from whom I know this story, what's about to happen here. But it's more than that, actually, isn't it? What Luke's shown us here, this man Jairus, he's a synagogue leader. This is a man with standing in the community. He's a leader. He's got a position. He's in a sense a big man in the community. People knew who Jairus was, and he had a reputation and so on. He's a leader in the community, and yet this big man comes and falls at Jesus' feet. Why? Well, we read, don't we, that he is pleading with him to come to his house because, verse 42, because his only daughter, a girl of about 12, is dying. Now, that is the worst, isn't it? I guess. I mean, there's all sorts of things that happen in people's lives, but that is the worst. If you're a parent here today, it is the worst, isn't it? You fear perhaps that you will die and leave them. Do you fear that as a parent, that you will die and leave them? Maybe that's something that occasionally troubles you or concerns you or haunts you or plagues you most days, the thought that you will die and leave them, particularly perhaps if you have young children. Or that they leave you, which is what's in view here. This 12-year-old daughter is dying. Now, it doesn't need to be apparent in a sense. Death and loss is terrible, isn't it? Whoever it is, whatever it is, whatever age and whatever kind of loss, it's always awful, it's always horrendous. And Luke just adds a note here of the depth of what's going on here, because he tells us, doesn't he, in verse 42, that this girl was Jairus' only daughter. It's his only daughter. Luke does this in the previous chapter. The widow, he tells us, has just lost her only son. He doesn't have to tell us that, but he does, and to tell us that she was a widow as well. She'd lost her husband, and now she's lost her only son. In chapter 7, we've seen that. And then in the chapter that follows, in chapter 9, we meet a parent whose child is being destroyed by an evil spirit, and we're told that it's their only child. Luke just draws our attention to that and to the depth of what's going on here. It's awful anyway, isn't it? But this is his only daughter. And Jesus is here. Jesus sees this situation. He sees, and he sees the whole thing. He sees that she is his only daughter. You might be one of 7. Well, Jesus sees, he understands, he sees that whatever your family dynamics may have been or are, or whether you're an only child or whatever it might be, Jesus sees it all. He sees all the troubles of your family. He sees all the sadnesses and everything up to and including your deepest desperate plight, whatever that might be. Jesus sees it. He sees your pleading in the night. He sees your desperation. He sees all of it. That's the first thing that we see here. But then the things move on, don't they? And we see that Jesus sees you hidden in plain sight. Jesus obviously goes, doesn't he? He's heard about this, and so verse 42, middle of verse 42, Jesus was on his way. So he's responding to this situation, and he's going to Jairus' daughter. He's on his way, and the crowds, were told, almost crushed him. Now, we've seen this, haven't we? We've seen Jesus with crowds. We're quite used to this now. There's a lot of people crowding around Jesus. But you get the sense that there's something more here, that there's absolutely packed together. Everyone's kind of crushed together. There's a lot of people here. Middle Eastern people are not perhaps known for their ability to form orderly queues. That's more of our kind of thing, isn't it? But they're just packed together. There's so many people. This is kind of mega crowds around Jesus, and he's almost crushed by them. And then we get this attention drawn to one particular person in the crowd, verse 43, and a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years, but no one could heal her. This woman has, I guess, had uterine bleeding. She's been bleeding from the womb for 12 years. It's a long time. And she's tried, and there have been appointments and meetings and disappointments. She's tried all sorts, and there is no one to help her. No one can help her. She's not getting any better. Perhaps she's getting worse. I think we just need to be clear about what's going on here for this poor woman. This would have been so, apart from anything, so awkward to manage. Particularly, perhaps more so back then than would be the case now. This is for her very embarrassing. It's horrible. It's limiting. It's debilitating. It's ongoing, and there's no sign of it stopping. She's probably anemic. Her hair's probably falling out. She's tired and fatigued a lot of the time. And that's not all, because on top of that, she's also seen as ritually unclean all of the time because of the Old Testament laws. That's how she's seen. Now, we might kind of balk at that and think, well, sort of to add insult to injury, but that's the reality for her and for those around her. That's how they see it. That's how she sees it. That's how they understand it at that time. Actually, all cultures do this. All cultures have ways of representing and signifying deeper truths and realities. Our culture does it as well. We have all sorts of ways of signalling certain things that we think are important or whatever it might be. So for them, cleanness and uncleanness and order and disorder and purity and God's holiness ultimately were the key things. And so that's what they symbolize. But we do it all the time with virtue signalling and labels that we apply to different people and things. All cultures do it. But let's see what actually happens here with this poor woman. She comes up behind Jesus, verse 44, and she touched the edge of his cloak, and immediately her bleeding stopped. And Jesus responds, doesn't he, immediately, verse 45, "Who touched me?" And everyone's like, Peter, says to Jesus, what are you talking about, Jesus? Everybody's touching you, Jesus. Everybody's touching everybody. It's a massive crowd. Everyone's crushed together, and we're all everyone. But Jesus doesn't take that, does he, at all? No, he says, no. Someone has touched me. Someone has reached out and touched me deliberate. I guess perhaps people were doing that, but this one has reached out and touched me deliberately, and power has gone out from me. Something's happened. So someone's been healed. Something has happened here, says Jesus. And so he says that, and I guess he stops. And then the woman, we're told, aren't we, verse 47, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. In the presence of all the people, she told why she had touched him and how she had been instantly healed. Instantly healed. Can you imagine that? Luke uses that word 3 times in this passage. Immediately, instantly. 12 years this has gone on. This has just totally ruined her life for 12 years. It just covers everything. It marks everything, every day of her life, every encounter with another person, everything. And instantly, she's been healed. Instantly, her situation has been changed. But notice with me something else here. Notice, and no pun intended, but notice that word, unnoticed. That's what's said there, isn't it, in verse 47? The woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling at Jesus' feet. She realizes that she can no longer, Jesus is, now hold on a minute, something's happened here, and she can no longer go unnoticed, and so she comes to Jesus. But isn't that her, that word, unnoticed? Isn't that her? Now, I know part of it is, look, we're in a crowd here, Rich. There's lots of people who are going unnoticed. There's so many people, and there's something to that for sure. But isn't that little word almost a commentary on her life? She is unnoticed. Think of Jairus. He's a big man. He's noticed, he is noted, he's noteworthy, he's notable. Everyone knows who Jairus is. But this woman, she is totally unnoticed. She's basically an outcast in her own community. She is unnoticed. She's not big man Jairus, neither is she medical emergency Jairus' daughter. Let's not forget her in all of this. She's not, if I can put it like that, this lady, in the situation here, in the understanding of what's going on, in the comparison with those other characters, is a chronic nobody. She is totally unnoticed in life. She is unappreciated. She's unhappy and she's unhealthy. But now she is noticed. Now she is seen. And who does the noticing? Who sees her in the midst of all of these people and all that's gone on in her life? It's Jesus. And she's seen in this moment. And he stops. And he's on his way to her, but he stops for this woman. And he notices her. I guess, if we're to understand what it says, he looks at her. And he listens to her. And he learns about her. She tells the whole story, and he laments, perhaps, and loves her. You feel completely unnoticed, unrecognized, unappreciated, unvalued, underutilized, perhaps. He sees. He sees you hidden in plain sight, whoever you are this morning. He sees you. Other people might not, but he does. In a crowd. Well, this is a crowd, isn't it? Let's talk about Mickfield on a Sunday morning. You come to church on a Sunday morning, and perhaps you feel that you're hidden in plain sight. You're here, everyone can see you, but no one sees you. You're not recognized. You feel overlooked. You feel unnoticed. It can be lonely in a crowd. Actually, it can be very easy to be lonely in a crowd, can't it? Maybe you're single this morning and you experience church to be very coupley. It feels like that. Well, he sees you. He sees you. Whatever your situation, whatever your condition, and he sees you hidden in plain sight. Now, sometimes we can fall into this, can't we? Having a sort of mentality about ourselves, little old me, what have I got to bring? What have I got to offer? And sometimes we can, in a sense, be guilty of hiding in plain sight. We do it deliberately, sort of thing, that we almost sort of, what have I got to offer? And actually, the New Testament really encourages us to humbly be proactive, to humbly serve, to humbly use whatever we've got and whatever God's given us, and so on. It encourages us, in a sense, out of that, for sure. Sometimes we can be guilty of hiding in plain sight, but maybe your experience is that you are hidden in plain sight this morning, or wherever it may be, or unnoticed, like this woman. The Welsh rock band, the Manic Street Preachers, actually have a song, don't they, called Hiding in Plain Sight, and it's about midlife, the nostalgia of looking backwards, the aging, kind of looking forwards and being there in midlife, and hiding whatever the past involved, or whatever the pain is, hiding whatever it is while appearing to be normal. And that can be the case, can't it? Maybe you feel like you're in the middle. There's these people here and they seem to have a lot of attention, the younger ones, and there's the older ones and maybe they do as well, but you just feel you're in the middle and you're unnoticed. He sees you, hidden in plain sight. He sees you. Maybe you're older, actually, and you feel undervalued. You've got all this life experience. You've got so much to pass on to the younger, and you just feel missed. You just feel underappreciated. You feel undervalued as an older person. Might be here in church, or it could just be in life, wherever. He sees you hidden in plain sight. Can I just apply this passage in a really basic, plain, I think quite obvious way? And I think sometimes this is missed. But if I can say this as a 36-year-old man with a load of chocolate biscuit rubbed into his right shoulder, as you may have noticed, if I can say this, ladies, women, she's a woman, right? And he sees, he knows. Wherever you're at today, and I mean that, he sees, he knows. He understands. Just as he sees this woman in all of her condition, wherever you're at today, and I mean that like hormonally. We've all got hormones, right? I've got hormones, and we've all got them, right? But there is a difference between my 36-year-old man experience of those and yours, for sure. Jesus sees. Whatever season of your life you're in, whatever day it is today, he sees and he understands. Just like with this woman. It could be that, or it could be just a hidden condition. No one else knows about it. Well, Jesus sees. Jesus sees all of that. And actually, that's not just for the women, is it? It's for all of us, actually, male and female. Some of us, actually, a number of you, many of you are living with hidden conditions that you've lived with for years, like 12 years, like this woman, you've lived with something, whether it's in your mind or your body or both, and it's hidden, and you struggle with it. Well, Jesus sees all of that. He sees you hidden in plain sight. This is Richard Bewes, Mr. Bewes, as we call him. And Richard Bewes was a very gifted Bible teacher and preacher and author and evangelist, a very warm-hearted pastor by all accounts. He was the rector of All Souls Langham Place. That's the one right next to the BBC in London. It's literally over the road from the BBC. He was the rector there from 83 to 2004. And my wife spent a year in London, and as part of her training, and she went to a conference there in London at a church in Hampstead, and at that time she was quite troubled, she was distressed, she'd got some spiritual kind of doubts and questions and difficulties, and there was Mr. Bewes. Now, the way she tells the story, there were a lot of young men at this conference, bright young things, the next generation of leaders and all the rest of it coming through, and there she was with all of that going on, and Mr. Bewes, she chatted with him, and he said, let's go and chat. And they walked out of the conference, and they went and sat in his car, and in the front seat, apparently there was a McDonald's packet on the floor there, and they went and sat there, and he listened to her, and he talked with her, and he shared his story, and prayed for her. He left the 99 for the one. He left the young men who probably wanted his ear and his attention and his sermon feedback or whatever. He left the session. He completely missed the next session of the conference for her. A 22-year-old young woman in the middle of London who was struggling. That's Jesus. That's Jesus. That's what he does. Hidden in plain sight, he sees you. And what does he say to the woman? It's wonderful, isn't it? He says in verse 48, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. 3 things there, aren't there? First of all, daughter. Turns to this woman and calls her daughter. Now, if you sort of try and do the maths, she could have been younger than him. Perhaps she's the same age as him. It's possible that she's older than him. And yet he calls her daughter. It's a word of affection and love and belonging as well, isn't it? She's not just been physically healed. Her whole situation has changed. He says, daughter. And then he says, doesn't he, not only daughter, but your faith has healed you. What's going on there? What does that mean, your faith has healed you? Well, it's his power that's healed her. That's clear, isn't it? Jesus says, power has gone out from me. So it's his power that's done the healing, but faith took hold of that power. Faith took hold of that person, Jesus, and trusted. She trusted if she just reached out, he could heal her. And she had humble faith in Jesus. Notice that both the characters do that. Jairus falls at Jesus' feet. The big man falls at Jesus' feet. And this woman also falls at Jesus' feet with humble faith. Will you do that? Will you do that? It's the only question that really matters, isn't it? Will you fall at the feet of Jesus with humble faith? It's the most important question ever. Will you do that? Will you fall at his feet and put your trust in him? I had an opportunity to tell my story this last week. I was in a meeting and they wanted me to share a bit of my story of how I became a Christian and a bit more than that as well. And I did. And part of my story, just a little part of it, is that when I was becoming a Christian, older child, early teenager, so it would have been about 13, my granny developed bowel cancer. And ultimately, she died of bowel cancer. I'm telling you many stories about my granny. We had a few laughs about her experience. She's a hard lady, but she died of bowel cancer. But before that, she had an operation on her bowel. And my dad took me for a walk. I was the oldest of three, so I was more aware of what was going on. And he said, look, this might not work out at all. This operation, it sort of 80% might not actually work out. And you just need to know that. And I went home. And I went up to my bedroom and I got down on my knees and I asked that God would bring her through the operation. Of course I did. She's my granny. She was in her 80s. She had a good innings, but I asked that he would bring her through it. And then I prayed, because I knew to, that's what Jesus does. I prayed, not my will, but your will. Now that was a moment of surrender. It wasn't everything in this, but it was a moment of complete surrender to his will. Have you done that? You know, as it were, I fell at Jesus' feet. And have you fallen at his feet with humble faith and said, not my will, but yours? You're in control. And then finally, of course, he says peace, doesn't he? She's not just been physically healed. He says, look, go in peace. You know, Jesus sees your deepest, desperate plight. He sees you if you hidden in plain sight in life today, and he gives you and he sends you on your way with a deep peace beyond any physical healing, a complete change, a deep peace. But then we must see the final episode, because there's so much going on here, isn't there? He sees you battling a losing fight. Sees you battling a losing fight. So what Jesus is still talking, I guess the lady's told her story, he's still speaking to her, and then someone comes from Jairus' house and says to Jairus, this synagogue leader, he says, your daughter is dead. Don't bother the teacher anymore. It is that awful numbness, isn't it? That deep inner numbness and emptiness and ache of recognition that this person has gone. They're gone. They're dead. Many of you will have experienced the shock of that, the kind of, they're gone. And you might well think at this point, well, Jesus, what have you done? What has he done? You know, he was told this girl is dying, and you think, well, right, okay, so this is priority number one. But what's he done? He spent all this time, you know, this woman's told her whole life story kind of thing, and he's just stood there and listened, and now it's too late. What is Jesus doing? You know, it flies against all of how we understand life to work, isn't it? It's medical triage, isn't it? You know, in the hospital, they have to make priorities, and they have to, you know, this is a medical emergency. This 12-year-old girl is dying. Jesus, what are you doing? This lady, with all due respect, this has gone on for 12 years. She'll still be there tomorrow, you know, but where are your priorities, Jesus? And some of you will know it in your own working lives. It doesn't have to be medical. You have to make priorities, and this is like ultimate. And what's he doing? This week, my wife takes the British the medical journal, and this little insert was in there, and it's a thing from Medicine Sans Frontiers. So my French is not very good, but apparently that means Doctors Without Borders, and inside it tells you what they do when there's a big old, casualties everywhere kind of situation. Perhaps somewhere overseas, something happens and there's mass casualties, and there's a whole process. You know, they clear the hospital. If you don't need to be there, they get you out. They clear the space. They make way, and then they bring people in, and they color code people, and they put people in different areas depending on the conditions. They shut all the other entrances and just bring you through one entrance. It's all planned out because they need to prioritize, because some people are in medical emergency. Jesus, what are you doing here? And meanwhile, these parents and this girl, well, they've battled a losing fight. That's what death is, isn't it? It's a losing fight for all of us, and they've lost. And Jesus turns to Jairus and says, don't be afraid, just believe and she will be healed. And he turns up at the house, and he takes Peter and John and James in there with him. And meanwhile, there's all these people outside mourning and wailing the loss of this girl. She's gone. And Jesus turns to them, doesn't he? And he says in verse 52, rather, she is not dead, but asleep. What does Jesus mean? Well, he means she isn't asleep. She is dead, as everyone can see. But Jesus, for Jesus, sleep is as death is as sleep. You know, it's something that you can be wakened from. That's his perspective. Just like you can be wakened from sleep, so you can be wakened from death. And this little girl who was, in their understanding, at 12 years old, kind of the prime of her life. I know Gareth thinks the prime of your life's when you're 44, but for them it was around 12, the sort of prime of your life. And she's died. And he says to them, she's not dead, but asleep, because they laugh at him. They think it's crazy. And Jesus goes in, as I say, takes the parents with him, Peter, John and James, and no one else. And Jesus takes her by the hand, verse 54. "My child, get up," he says. And her spirit returned. And at once she stood up. Actually, that's so apt a description of what's happening here. Her spirit returns. And many of you, well, I know some of you talked to me, and people, not necessarily those who follow Jesus, know and have seen this through sitting with someone who is dying, or through sitting with someone, the body after they've died, that they're not there anymore. They're not there anymore. I know you've had that experience. I've seen that. They're not there anymore. When Granny eventually did die, as she did in a hospice of bowel cancer, one of my relatives, a secular relative, was there, sat with her at that moment. And they said, actually, it would be hard not for them not to believe at that point, because they saw her go. They saw her leave, as it were. The body remains, and we treat the body with the deepest respect, but the person has gone. And they could see that. They understood that. And so it's so apt that now we're told the Spirit returns. And Jesus has brought her back to life, and the Spirit returns. And Jesus says this wonderful thing, doesn't he? The Spirit returns once she stands up. Then Jesus told the parents to give her something to eat. It's wonderful, isn't it? Jesus gets it. Look, she's just died and come back to life again. She's going to be hungry. You know, Jesus sees the big man, Jairus, and Jesus sees the completely unseen, unnoticed woman, and Jesus also sees this little girl, sees that she has died, and also just basically sees that she needs some food. He sees. And then there's this very strange thing right at the end there, isn't there, that Jesus just silences them. Verse 56, obviously the parents were astonished. I mean, they're just without words, aren't they? They're speechless. Their daughter has come back, and then he ordered them not to tell anyone what had happened. I read about 10 commentaries on this week to try and understand why did Jesus do that? And there's a whole literature on why Jesus silences people at various points in the Gospels. But what about this specific, why here does Jesus silence them? It's very strange, isn't it? Apart from anything, it's quite public. They've seen that she's died, and there are eyewitnesses. The parents are there, that Peter, and we're reading about it now, so the story must have got out somehow, right? So why does Jesus tell them shh at this point? Well, what have we seen? We've seen Jairus putting his faith in Jesus. We've seen the woman putting her faith in Jesus. Now think of the people who are gathered round that house. They know that this little girl is dead. They think it's ridiculous that Jesus says she's asleep. Of course she's not, she's dead. And they're mourning. They're grieving her loss. And then they see Jesus go into the house, and the next thing they know, the parents are ordering a celebratory takeaway. Of course, like, she can have whatever. What does she want? Chinese, Indian, whatever, she can have it. Domino's will get that in. That's what they see. And so the only question ought to be, will they put their faith in Jesus? You know this girl was dead. You see him go in the house. The next thing you know, Domino's is turning up. Will you put your faith in this Jesus who has just raised this dead girl? She's brought her back to life. And if that's a question for them, then it's certainly a question for you, whoever you are here today. Will you put your faith in Jesus? Will you fall at his feet and put your trust in him? Who is this man? The storm comes down on the lake and he defeats it. There are thousands of demons within and he defeats them. There's sickness and illness that plagues and ruins life for years and years and years, and he gets rid of it in an instant. Death comes, death itself, and Jesus defeats it. He sees your deepest desperate plight. He sees you hidden in plain sight this morning. He sees you when you are battling the losing fight. Who is he? And not just sees, but has made a way through that one, the battle that we will all face and lose, has made a way through it to victory and life and peace beyond it. But for that, you'll have to come back next weekend. We're going to stand together and sing His Glory and My Good. You know, every trial and every trouble and every road not understood, in all of that he is working for his glory and for our good. So let's stand together.